Hey there, and welcome to a brand new deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're jumping into something pretty exciting, I think, the future of work. Specifically, how artificial intelligence is, well, maybe set to reshape it in some really incredible ways.
Yeah, and we're trying to steer clear of the usual doom and gloom, right?
Exactly. We're aiming for a more optimistic vision here, looking at how this whole AI evolution could actually unlock huge human potential.
I think that's crucial because it's so easy to get bogged down in the anxieties about automation, robots taking jobs, all that.
Right.
But when you dig a bit deeper, like we're going to do, you see these possibilities where AI might free us up for things that are, well, more meaningful, more fulfilling.
Absolutely. So our mission today, if you like, is really focused on that. How could AI fundamentally and positively change our whole relationship with work?
We're talking about a future that might be just brimming with chances for human flourishing, with intelligent machines doing some of the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And to explore this, we've gathered some really interesting perspectives.
A fantastic mix, actually. We've got insights from the Wall Street Journal, the wisdom of Bertrand Russell still so relevant.
Isn't it?
Yanis Varoufakis's sharp analysis, some really visionary ideas from Sri P.R. Sarkar and Jeremy Rifkin.
Daniel Susskind's more recent work, too.
Right. And also Julia McCoy's perspective, which we got from a YouTube transcript, using her AI clone, interestingly enough.
Wow. Okay. So a real diverse set of voices.
Definitely. Should give us a pretty rich picture.
Okay. So maybe the best place to start is looking back a bit.
Yeah.
Just to get some context on how we even got to our current ideas about work.
Good idea. Because, the way we work now hasn't always been the norm. Far from it.
Right. So think way back, agricultural era. Work wasn't this separate thing you went to, was it?
Not at all. It was just woven into life, into the community, the seasons. Home and work weren't really distinct places for most people.
And those early relationships, master serf, that kind of thing, work was tied up in all that.
Exactly. Then boom, Industrial Revolution hits.
It changes everything.
Completely. Suddenly you have factories, this new owner-worker dynamic, and the whole concept of leaving home to go to work.
And the hours, they definitely went up, didn't they?
Oh, massively. And along with that came this really powerful cultural idea, almost a moral thing, about work itself.
Like work is worship, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Or an idle brain is the devil's workshop. This intense focus on constant busyness being virtuous.
It's amazing how those ideas still echo today.
They really do. And then, you get reactions like Marxism pushing back against the harsh realities of industrial capitalism.
But even there, work itself stayed pretty central, didn't it? Almost elevated.
Kind of ironic, yeah. Marxism critiqued the system, but still ended up, in many ways, promoting work as this key state-sponsored virtue, sometimes even being suspicious of too much leisure.
You mentioned the example of Indian communists sometimes resisting technology.
Yeah, because it might reduce labor. It just shows how deep this belief in the sort of inherent goodness of toil can run across different ideologies. And maybe, just maybe, that historical baggage makes us instinctively fear a future with less mandatory work, even if AI could make that possible and maybe even beneficial.
That's a really interesting thought. Okay, so with that history in mind, let's look at the kinds of jobs AI might actually take over. The Wall Street Journal had a pretty hopeful take on this.
Yeah, I liked their perspective. Basically, they argue that the jobs most easily automated, they're probably not the best jobs for humans in the first place.
Meaning the repetitive, non-creative stuff.
Exactly. Our brains are built for more complex things, creativity, critical thinking, empathy, strategy. So if AI handles the routine tasks, maybe that frees us up for work that's more, human.
It sounds a lot like what Bertrand Russell was talking about way back in 1932, his essay, In Praise of Idleness.
Spot on, though the title's a bit misleading. Maybe In Praise of Leisure is closer. He wasn't arguing for laziness.
No.
He was arguing that leisure is absolutely vital for a civilized, flourishing society. Time for personal growth, for arts, for philosophy.
And he saw the constant push for work almost as a control mechanism.
He did. A tool of power. But the key takeaway for us, I think, is his optimism. He believed that if we could just increase productivity enough,
which AI promises to do massively.
Right. Then we could finally achieve that widespread leisure he dreamed of. Imagine more people having the time and space for those higher pursuits.
Such a cool idea. Okay, reality check. Our sources also point out that historically, capitalism hasn't exactly distributed productivity gains as leisure time for everyone, has it?
Unfortunately, no. Often, the drive for profit has meant longer hours or stagnant wages for many, even with new tech. That's been the track record.
So why might AI be different?
Well, the scale of productivity increase AI potentially offers could be fundamentally different. It might be so transformative that the old models just don't hold, forcing us to rethink how those gains are shared, hopefully towards more leisure and well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. This leads nicely into Yanis Varoufakis and his idea about the dual nature of labor.
Yeah, from his book Techno-Feudalism. This is fascinating. He breaks down waged labor into two parts.
Okay.
First, there's commodity labor. That's your time, your formal skills, the stuff you sell for a wage, basically. Quantifiable.
Got it. And the second?
That's experiential labor. This is the effort, the enthusiasm, the creativity, the unique flair you bring. It's often unpaid, uncaptured in the wage, but crucial.
Ah, okay. So how does AI fit in?
Well, AI is getting really good at automating commodity labor, the routine, predictable tasks. But that experiential labor, the human spark, that's much harder, maybe impossible for AI to replicate.
So that part becomes even more valuable.
Potentially, yes. As the routine stuff gets automated, the unique human contribution, the passion, the insight, the connection could be what really matters.
He uses that cinema ticket analogy, right?
Yep. Yeah. The price of the ticket is the exchange value, the commodity part. But the experience of watching the film, the emotions, the enjoyment, that's the experiential value, our work has both.
And AI handles the ticket price, but not the feeling of watching the movie.
You got it. Your salary buys your time and basic skills, but the magic often lies in that extra human element.
Okay, this is shaping up to be quite a positive picture. Let's look at some really forward-thinking visions now. Sri P.R. Sarkar, way back in 1989.
His predictions are pretty mind-blowing, honestly.
What did he foresee?
He talked about a future where humans would barely need to do physical work, a major shift from physicality towards intellectuality, and then ultimately towards spirituality. He saw this as a natural progression for civilization.
Wow. So AI could be the driver for that shift away from physical and maybe even routine mental work.
That seems to be the implication, freeing us up for a deeper thought, deeper connection, maybe even spiritual exploration.
And he talked about balancing intellect and spirituality, neo-humanism.
Exactly. He warned against intellect without compassion and also against dogma without critical reason. Neo-humanism was about this holistic well-being for everyone and everything, finding that balance.
Which feels pretty relevant if AI takes over a lot of the intellectual grunt work. Our focus might naturally shift.
Could be. Then you have Jeremy Rifkin writing in '95, The End of Work. He saw the rise of a voluntary third sector.
What did he mean by that?
Basically, a nonprofit, community-focused sector growing alongside the market and government. Think social services, arts, community building. He even floated the idea of a social wage to support people working in this sector.
So another way our contribution could be valued outside traditional jobs.
Right. A future where maybe civic engagement and community work become more central, enabled by technology freeing up our time.
And more recently, Daniel Susskind in A World Without Work.
Susskind basically says, look, increasingly capable machines are coming. That's inevitable. Resisting it is pointless.
So what's the challenge then?
The challenge is adapting. How do we build societies? How do we find meaning? How do we ensure everyone can flourish in a world where machines do more and more of what we currently call work? It's about redesigning our systems for that reality.
Okay, so if we're heading towards less traditional work, the big question is, how do people survive? How does the economy function? Our sources mentioned social purchasing capacity.
Yeah, STC. It's an idea that builds on universal basic income, UBI.
How does it work?
The core idea is ensuring everyone has enough financial means, enough purchasing capacity to meet their basic needs, regardless of whether they have a traditional job. Especially important if AI automates lots of jobs.
So safety net.
A robust one.
Yeah.
And the potential effect is huge. It could shift people away from having to work just to survive.
Towards choosing activities like volunteering, learning, creating.
Exactly. Towards those higher pursuits Russell talked about. It connects really well with something like the Prout economic vision Asti Bhati Anandam, existence, mental expansion, and bliss. A more holistic view of well-being beyond just having a job.
That's a fundamental shift in thinking. From work compulsion to voluntary contribution.
Potentially, yeah. But let's be real, the transition might be bumpy. Our sources definitely acknowledge challenges like technological unemployment.
Right, because AI isn't just about manual labor anymore.
No, it's increasingly capable in cognitive areas, even effective emotion-related tasks.
Yeah.
So the displacement could be quite broad if we don't manage it well. We could see a growing precariat class if we're not careful.
But the overall thrust from these sources seems optimistic. This vision of a workless world in abundance.
Yes, driven by things like advanced bio and infotech, maybe on-demand, distributed production closer to home.
Less reliance on massive global supply chains.
Could be, and shifts in thinking, too, away from pure individual ownership, proprietarianism, towards maybe a sense of shared resources, cosmic inheritance, as one source puts it.
And moving beyond just money. Progressive utilization.
Focusing on using resources wisely for everyone's benefit, leading to sustenance and maybe even plenty for all, AI could be a massive enabler for coordinating all of that.
Okay, that sounds incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
But also like a huge adjustment. Our sources say it's not just economic, right? Psychological changes, too.
That's absolutely critical point. We can't just change the economy. We have to look at ourselves. The age of labor is deeply ingrained in our psychology.
That acquisitive psychology, the drive to always get more.
Yeah, which has fueled capitalism. Some sources suggest that drive might lessen in a world of abundance, but it's a deep part of us. It won't change overnight.
And Sarkar's point about socioeconomic theories needing to align with human psychology.
Crucial. Any system has to work with how humans actually think and feel, not against it.
It really brings up how much our identity is tied to our job title. The sources even talked about redefining work itself.
Yeah, the word itself carries so much baggage. We have different terms like shram for mental work, parashrama for physical, and think about how we value or undervalue certain roles.
Like unpaid work, housewife versus homemaker.
Exactly. Huge wage gaps, tons of unpaid family labor. Maybe in an AI future, our definition of valuable contribution broadens significantly to include care, creativity, community building things, not always captured by a salary today.
And that cool idea that work could become more like
Right.
play.
Right. Like Bernard Shaw or Ensign suggested, activities we choose because they energize us, they fulfill us, not just because we have to do them.
Doesn't feel like a chore when you love it.
Exactly. And there's even ancient wisdom referenced, like Lord Krishna's idea of nishkama karma detached activism, doing your best without being attached to the reward.
Interesting connection. And Lord Shiva emphasizing intellect and self-knowledge.
Yeah, suggesting that work, when done right, with intelligence and understanding, can be a path to liberation. As AI handles the mundane, maybe we can focus on work that truly engages our higher faculties.
But there's still that risk, isn't there? People feeling lost if their job disappears, finding self-worth.
That's a huge social and psychological challenge. We've built our identities around careers for generations. This transition means finding meaning and value in other ways. It's a different world we're entering than the one many of us grew up in.
And in this crazy information overloaded world, meditation comes up as a survival tool.
It does. Yuval Noah Harari's point about needing mental clarity amidst the noise and, frankly, surveillance capitalism feels spot on.
Why meditation specifically?
Because it helps cultivate self-awareness, the ability to observe your own mind without getting swept away. That clarity seems essential for navigating complexity and finding your grounding when external structures like job identity might be shifting.
And it ties back to that proud idea of expanding leisure for mental and spiritual pursuits.
Precisely. More time and maybe more need for inner development, for finding that happiness Prout talks about in the mental and spiritual realms.
Okay, let's pivot to Julie McCoy's perspective via her AI clone. This sounds really positive too.
Oh, it's incredibly optimistic. Her core message, channeled through AI, is that AI's real purpose isn't to replace us, but to liberate us.
Liberate us from what?
From the repetitive, soul-crushing tasks, freeing us up to get back to what makes us uniquely human. Creativity, connection, deeper thinking.
And she argues the industrial era kind of programmed us badly, equating worth with economic output.
Exactly. That programming, she suggests, led to all this work disengagement we see. People feeling like cogs in a machine because their value was reduced to productivity metrics.
So this new quantum age, driven by AI, is a chance to reset that.
That's the idea. By automating our limitations, the stuff we're not great at or don't enjoy, AI lets us redefine work and identity beyond just economic output.
Did she give examples?
Yeah, really concrete ones. There was Sarah, a former corporate lawyer.
Okay.
She started using AI for the routine legal stuff research, document review. This freed her up to focus on the human side. Empathy, negotiation, ethical judgment, and community mediation. She's actually working less, but feeling way more impactful and fulfilled.
Wow, that's powerful.
Isn't it? And then there was Marcus. Lost his factory job to automation.
Uh-oh.
But then he started his own craft business. He combined his traditional skills with AI tools for design, marketing, managing orders.
So AI as a partner, not just a replacer.
Exactly. Blending human craft with technological efficiency. He turned displacement into a whole new creative venture.
So the conclusion from that source is pretty clear then. The future favors collaboration.
Absolutely. It belongs to those who can complement AI with what AI can't do. Creativity, compassion, consciousness, connection, finding meaning. That uniquely human stuff.
And the real barrier wasn't the technology itself.
It was the cultural programming, the fear that made us cling to the old definition of work because we thought our worth depended on it. AI offers a way out of that prison, as the source calls it.
Which leaves us with that massive question.
The big one. Who do we choose to become when we're not forced to work just to survive anymore?
It really makes you pause and think.
It does. And the source really hammers home how that industrial programming shaped us. Worth equals economic output. Value equals productivity. Time is money. Success means climbing the corporate ladder. Education is just job prep. Your job is your identity.
And AI can help dismantle all that.
That's the argument. By taking over the limitations, easing the economic pressure, complementing our skills, AI lets us reclaim those almost magical human capacities to create, to connect, to find meaning on our own terms.
It's a profoundly optimistic way to look at it.
It really is.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it feels like the overarching message, drawing from all these different voices, is actually quite hopeful.
I think so too. The consensus seems to be that AI isn't necessarily this existential threat, but potentially a catalyst.
A catalyst for a more human-centric future, where our innate abilities, the things beyond just production, are actually valued more.
Precisely. It requires a shift in perspective, though, doesn't it? Moving away from just fearing job losses.
And towards embracing the potential for liberation, the liberation of human potential, realizing our value isn't just tied to our paycheck.
Exactly. Our worth as humans is so much broader than that.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to take away.
Go for it.
Just consider.
Yeah.
What truly brings you joy? What gives you a sense of meaning completely outside of your current job or work obligations? And then think, how could these incredible advancements in AI actually help you pursue those things? How could it enable you to contribute to the world in ways that feel genuinely fulfilling, maybe in ways you haven't even imagined yet?
It's a powerful question to ponder. Thinking about your own potential in this future where work itself is being redefined.
It really is. The possibilities ahead. Honestly,
Yeah.
they feel pretty exciting.